You ever had a bad therapist or a bad therapy session? Well, today I want to talk about what to do about that. And the answer isn't quit, leave, don't make appointments, because there's an opportunity here that would really actually, I think, be useful and beneficial. So that's what we want to talk about today in this video. Check it out. Yoga Psych. Ancient answers for your current problems. Hi, I'm Brett, your favorite shrink, and welcome. Welcome to Yoga Psych. This is our site where we talk about a new kind of therapy, the ancient therapy, the ancient psychology, the ancient truths, really, that come from Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism. And today, I'm shooting from my office where I do therapy because I wanted this video to be a little bit faster in my production time because I think the topic is really important. The other day, I had a guy in our men's group and he was venting and kind of hurt and frustrated because he had a bad therapy session. The therapist he was talking to wasn't me. The therapist he was talking to, he felt like wasn't listening to him. He felt like the therapist wasn't understanding him. He felt like the therapist was pushing his own agenda. And he was just ready. He's just ready to quit and bail. But I actually think that that would be the wrong answer. Now, I've been to therapy before, and I've had what we would call bad therapists. And I actually find it very, very useful because the nature of therapy. See, in therapy, it is like no other relationship, which has some really big advantages to it. In therapy, that person isn't my spouse. That person isn't my family. That person isn't my friend. And because of all that, I really don't have to worry about them. It's not a reciprocal relationship. Therapy is a one-sided relationship. Therapy is about you. And because therapy is about you, you don't have to filter. You get to really practice having your voice, being able to speak your truth, who you are, even, and I hope especially, if it's about the therapist. Because here you get to talk to somebody, real time, real person, in a real way that the focus of the conversation, hopefully, again, if the therapist is somewhat decent, is going to be about you. See, what I recommend for this guy to do is to go back to his therapist and say, hey, I didn't like our last session, or I think you're wrong in our last section. I felt like I wasn't heard, I wasn't listened to, I wasn't validated. And I really feel upset. I really feel angry. Angry at you. How many times, how many places do you get to do that? Relationship? With family? It's hard because these are people that are going to have their own reaction. Now, my hope is that the therapist is halfway decent. If the therapist is halfway decent, he's going to be able to, or she's going to be able to listen and be able to focus on the client and the client's experience. And my hope is at that point, the therapist is going to be able to validate and acknowledge, hey, gosh, it sounds like you're really angry. It sounds like you're really hurt. It sounds like really upset. Now, for me, again, I talked about being in therapy. I have been with bad therapists I've gotten angry with, therapists I've gotten so frustrated with, and I'll tell them. And I find it actually really, really helpful because even if I'm inappropriate, even if I'm kind of off the edge a little bit, and what I'm feeling ends up being really a projection. I'm taking the anger, the hurt, the frustration, the disappointment that I have with my dad or my mom or some other significant relationship, and I'm projecting it onto the therapist. And really when I'm yelling at my therapist for not listening or not supporting or not being there or not hearing me, I'm really yelling at somebody else in my life. That is exactly what therapy is for. That is what you're supposed to do in therapy. So my hope is that the therapist knows his job, and that at that point the therapist can allow the person to vent and then begin to maybe even explore some of that. Hey, I can totally hear that you didn't feel validated. Hopefully, tell me more about that. You sound really angry with me. Tell me more about that. And I hope the therapist can welcome those feelings and give voice to those feelings. And then, maybe, if it's appropriate, allow yourself to explore those feelings. Where else? When else have you heard? When else have you felt that you weren't heard? When else have you felt like someone wasn't there for you? Tell me more. And let's start exploring where this is all coming from. Because my guess is the therapist is just a person. And they're not somebody that's super significant in your life. So if you're having a lot of feelings with your therapist, which you should, there's probably more to it than meets the eye. And again, that is the value of therapy, right? Is to be able to dig deep and to go into these and process these feelings. So that's my encouragement to you. At some point, you may choose to make an appointment with some other therapist. You may choose to move on, get a different therapist. That's all legitimate and fair. But before you do that, take advantage of this circumstance and practice. Practice having a voice. Practice speaking your mind. Practice being able to be angry at somebody or dissatisfied or hurt by somebody and being able to tell them where you are in a situation that I hope is, if it's good therapy, I hope it's safe. That you can be you and have a voice to you. And I guess we should play out this option. If the therapist doesn't hear you and is getting defensive and getting reactive and basically getting in a right fight with you as if they were your spouse or your partner or something, I'd call them out on that too. Because in therapy, the adult in the room should be the therapist. It doesn't mean it's you. You don't have to be the adult. And you get to be the one with the feelings and get to be upset and get to have whatever experience you're having. And the therapist should be the one that's able to hear and contain and listen. And if they're not, confront them. Because it's good practice for you. Your therapist is a therapist. They're not a part of your life. You don't have to worry about ramifications or them liking you or not liking you or whatever that is. It's your therapy. And so I want to encourage you, stick around, process that as best you can. And if you still choose to move on later on, after you've practiced what you needed to practice, then do so. Thanks again for watching this video. I'm Brett, your favorite shrink, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey, I haven't told you yet, make sure you go to yogapsych.com because that's where you're going to find these ancient answers for your current problems. Take care.